I'd like to call this meeting to order. First, we'll have roll call, starting to my left.
Rosciato, Director, District 5.
Jeffrey McAnalloy, Director.
Director Danny Peterson.
Now if you can all rise for the presentation of the colors by Todd Beamer, High School JROTC. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Our first item this evening is approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion?
I move that the Board of Education approve the meeting agenda of March 10th, 2015 as submitted.
I second.
The motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next will be approval of our consent agenda.
I move that the Board of Education approve the consent agenda of March 10th, 2015 as submitted.
I second.
Motion is seconded. Any discussion?
Actually, just it was great just seeing some of the field trips and the opportunities that some of our students are going to be having to do performances or check out colleges and math contests and stuff like that. So this, obviously those are board approval things for consent agendas, but it's great to see activity going on in our district.
Anything else? Hearing nothing else, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now, Executive Director Vince Blauser, if you can please present Student Voice for us this evening.
Good evening, President McAnalloy, members of the board, Superintendent McLean. This evening, I'm honored to introduce a group of amazing individuals from Federal High School who recently generated an idea to bring students and parents together to create a dialogue about their future, sort of a success plan after high school. They call this program MIC, M-I-C, Motivation, Inspire, Change. And recently they developed and planned a very successful day-long activity on their campus and brought, I think, over 200 people together to have this discussion. At this time, I'd like to introduce Hawa, Anna, Genesis, Salma, and Amari. Are you all here? Come on up. These are the creators of this program, and they have a PowerPoint to share and to walk us through what the highlights of this program was. So I'll turn it over to you folks.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much for having us here. My name is Genesis.
My name is Hawa.
I'm Anna. My name is Salma.
And my name is Amir.
Okay. We had a dream to motivate our diverse student body because as diverse as we are the face of our nation. And as students of colors, the odds are stacked against us, and attaining higher education takes a village. It takes a community, and it's not easy to be able to complete that and to be able to get there, but it's completely worth it.
We had a dream to inspire our parents so that they could understand the educational system and connect these bridges between our cultural differences.
We had a dream to change the space that students have to voice the support they need and for their parents to express their concerns.
So this conference came to be as we came together as people of color to address barriers that we were facing ourselves as students who wanted to pursue higher education. And we soon noticed that this is not only an us problem, this was a we problem. So we spread it to our community because we recognized that other students were having these troubles too.
When we created the conference, we didn't want it to just be a short-term goal. We wanted it to be something that would last forever, and so we had it be a dialogue so that we were maintaining those conversations even after that day was over.
And just some quick logistics about how the day looked like. We had an all-day conference, free entertainment, free food. Everything was absolutely free, and everyone was invited, of course. We had a motivational speaker, Aaron Jones. We transitioned into different workshops, and then we had dinner, and we had a surprise singer there as well, one of the students. And then after that, we had closing, and we had debrief. And that debrief was absolutely impactful. We're going to talk about how the workshops and our stories behind how it turned out.
Okay, so all the sessions were completely student-led with teacher support. I'll talk about my session first. The first session was college readiness, and the idea of that is that we surveyed parents and students at the exact same time, the same questions, and we talk about what students wanted to do after high school, and then we compared the answers to see how close the parents were to see like if it matched what the students wanted to do exactly. And the third session, my mom was in that session, and I was able to comfortably talk about what I wanted to do, even if she wasn't like as accepting, because I wanted to go out of state, and it's a really touchy subject because she has a hard time letting go, and I felt really comfortable talking about that also because I know that other students felt the same way, and I know that she also felt okay with me saying that because she understood that other parents have the same concerns, and maybe Hawa can talk about her experience with her dad.
In that same session where Salma was able to connect with her parents, and she was speaking to us, and I was in the audience with my dad, and he was able to connect with Salma's experience, and so he started tearing up because he felt it within himself, and I think it was like a moment of realizing that like he wasn't the only one, and he wasn't the only parent who didn't really know how to support their kid or like had issues with like letting go or whatever it would be. And I think it was just really important that the parents were exposed to that environment where, you know, like there's other people like them, and that it was kind of reassuring. And I think it was just an eye-opener where it was emotional for like all of us.
Okay, so in our academic success session, we wanted to have that same kind of comforting environment in which parents and students could have these conversations that need to be had. So what we did was we had an activity where the students fill out their version of what they believe a academically successful student would look like, and the parents fill out their own, but also it was more of like what their education was compared to their student, and likewise, and what values they had in education. And basically what ended up happening was, like Salma said before, all of us led our own session, so it was like the teachers pushed us to, in a little bit, nudge in the right direction, I mean, if that's the right term to say, but a lot of this was just our own feelings and our own beliefs that we believe that students and parents should be talking about at this time. And actually in my session, there was a parent and student that came, and they were from our school, and they were one of the earliest ones there at the conference, and they attended this session. And the mom who had before, the student had come to me and said that my mom has never really cared about this before. And in that session, she was on question, 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 because she felt comfortable doing so. And we also had this session so where I talked about my own feelings as a student, and we had my teacher who happened to speak Spanish. He would translate what I said rather than him talking and him translating, and then I add. And it was really, really powerful because those student and that parent have been on ever since then, and they are in everything. Like, these guys can tell you it has been beautiful, and I didn't imagine it would work so well.
Another big thing we want to emphasize of what this conference was about, we created a comfortable space for not just the English-speaking families, but I know a lot of our Latino community members, family members were there, and there's this language barrier we're all aware of, and we didn't just get translators, right? We were the ones actually translating everything on a deeper level, you know. There's a difference between like literally saying everything and like relating it to it. And parents who were feeling comfortable, we noticed that they were speaking up, and I know from my mom, so we had a student panel and a parent panel, so they were just talking about their experiences with like college, higher education, and, you know, going through this whole educational system. And they, my mom, she went up there with her accent, you know, and she was really proud how even with this whole language barrier, she could do it, you know. And I realized after this whole thing, other Latina moms were stepping up and finally voicing their opinions, you know, and it was just really powerful seeing how finally they were being comfortable enough to speak what they wanted to say and not have a language be that barrier. And throughout the day, we just saw this progression of how they were just being more open, having these conversations with their students. My friend, her mom, they never really talked about this whole college stuff, and she told me that they just finally opened this door, you know, and her mom actually came the other day to teach us like Zumba. Like we just created this path where they're feeling more comfortable to even come to school, and just how are they more involved with their students' life and having that trust, you know, that was the main topic that our parents are always worried about what we're doing after school, you know, is it really true that they're staying for a club? You know, my mom, she believes me, I'm here, so, but, you know, we just created that trust, and parents are definitely feeling more comfortable, and that's what we wanted to come up with, so.
And then also one of the last workshops was Get Involved, and I was able to organize it. Of course, a teacher was able to help me out. And I think what was most impactful and really empowering was the fact that my mom, speaking Spanish, she was able to let us all know and like really speak up about her concerns of like, we've had trust issues, and it's been kind of consistent. And me being involved and creating the whole conference, it was like every waking hour was dedicated to this conference. Every moment, every breath, it was difficult, you know? But then we were able to put it together, and I think her seeing my perseverance, it's like, she said, you know, like, seeing how far you've gone, seeing where you're at right now, I know that I'm able to trust you. And of course, we got really emotional, and the whole atmosphere, you know, everyone's like looked at her and all the Latino parents, and I was able to translate for other people to understand what was going on. And of course, they felt it. I felt like they understood as well, even though they didn't speak Spanish. And it was great, you know, like I look back at that moment and I realized that like the power that youth have, the power that community has, when we all come together, we really truly make a difference. And yeah, I mean, like, we have amazing women here that were able to put this together, and it absolutely makes me happy because we used our skills, and, you know, like, we organized a community, and that's huge.
Something that's really big about this conference was that it was student driven, and we had started with the idea and we kind of just came together, but at the end of the day, we weren't able to do anything without the support of our staff and the staff and the teachers and all the other people who like put in time to work with us. And like we had students come from TJ, And it was just like a lot of time that like everyone invested in our idea. And so I think that was really important because it was a community thing, and it was something that like we wanted to take a step in and like work for it, but they really helped us with it. And like they were all saying, it's that day had changed a lot of like our parents' perspectives. And I know with me, like my parents trust me a lot more now, and they're like more supportive in that. And it's nice to see the like change that's happening, and it's like actual change, like we could see it, and it's really nice. But we don't want that to be the end, and we want to continue with that for like the next years. Like that's our legacy that we want to leave as seniors. And I mean, we have juniors here, and like we just want to continue it. And I don't think that November 1st was the last day that was going to happen. And yeah, it's exciting.
Thank you so much for having us here.
So, any questions?
Right, questions. Sorry about that.
Comments?
So I have a comment. I attended part of it, and I actually get pretty emotional. I was emotional that day. You could feel it in the whole building. And I don't even know if you know what a profound difference that you made in breaking down barriers that as adults we talk about on a daily basis on how do we reach your communities, how do we make them a part. And the things that we saw that day were phenomenal. And I hope that we will continue this to move it forward and expand it to our other high schools, to include all that we can, and then bring it down not only at the secondary level, but into primary, because we must engage all of our families, and I believe you've got the key to open that. And so all I can say from the bottom of my heart is thank you for all the work and the perseverance and all that you did to make this come to fruition. So thank you.
Thank you.
I also would like to say that, you know, this just reemphasizes the capabilities that we have in our high school students, and they displayed that when they participated in our superintendent search committee process. I've gone to these meetings with the Puget Sound Education District and the Washington State Directors Association, and they always talk about this wanting to be genuine and welcoming to the parents. And it's never said as to how the schools are unwelcoming or not genuine, and maybe you've touched upon some of the things that just don't allow parents to really engage. And so I'm really glad that you took the initiative to move this, and what a great senior gift to pass this forward, and hopefully there is continuity there, because I think it's really important, as President McAnally pointed out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions or comments?
Thank you again. If you need help from the board to continue this, just let us know, because we great job. Great
Thank
job.
you.
Thank you. It was a great event.
Is it an opportunity for you to get a picture taken with these folks?
Absolutely.
Let's give them all a hand. Thank you very much. Nice job. Congratulations.
Wait, we're going to take this picture.
You go up front here and they'll take a picture. Yeah. Let's bring Karen up as well. Karen Weberg, ladies and gentlemen. Here you go. Is this yours? To continue our recognition, I'd like to invite Karen Weberg, an outstanding teacher at Federal High School, to introduce a group of students that have recently received the Act 6 scholarship, and she'll tell you a little bit about that and reintroduce the kids, if you will. Thank you.
So the Act 6 scholarship is a full ride scholarship. It's offered by Pacific Lutheran University, Gonzaga, Trinity Lutheran, Whitworth. Did I cover them? And I believe we have 8 full ride Act 6 winners in our district, but 3 of them are here tonight. Hawa Elias is going to Gonzaga on an Act 6 scholarship, Anna Rodriguez will be going to Whitworth on a full ride scholarship. And Genesis Garcia got a scholarship to Trinity Lutheran. And it's not the school that she wants to go to, but nonetheless, she did win that scholarship. So that's a pretty profound accomplishment. And really, it is coming to fruition, that which they were seeking on that November day when they did their Mike conference. So Hawa, Anna, and Genesis, congratulations.
Would you like a picture with him as well? Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I should have kept you down here, knowing it was coming. That concludes our recognitions for this evening. Thank you.
Superintendent McLean, I think you've got, no, we got one more. And while we're moving through, the next section will be public comment. There is a blue sheet on the back table. If you'd like to make public comment, please fill that out and we will hear you.
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity to recognize an unsung hero. Let me tell you a little bit about this award. February is Parent Recognition Month, so Governor Inslee has declared last month, February, to be Parent Recognition Month. And connected to that declaration, the Department of Early Learning for Washington State believes there's no better way to recognize a parent, grandparent, foster or adoptive parent than by acknowledging the numerous and impressive things they do to strengthen their family and those around them in their community. Doug Baxter is here this evening because he is one of the 28 unsung heroes that Dell recognized during the month of February. They recognized one unsung hero every day of the month, and he has been a very active parent in our Valhalla community and with our family liaisons and the key communicators and the coffee houses. And that's just what I know, and I know there's a lot more than that. So again, the Department of Early Learning, which is often abbreviated as DEL, has recognized these folks because they have shown strength, courage, and empathy in their communities. Doug Barker, sorry.
No worries.
Was formally nominated by Elizabeth Bagnell, the family liaison at Valhalla, and these are the things that she said about Doug. Mr. Doug Barker is a very involved dad at all levels, not only in the lives and education of his own children, but he's also involved at the Federal Way Public School level, where he's making a difference for children through the Family and Community Partnership Office, which helps to promote success in all children. Even though one of his children was living with a health condition, he found creative ways to help his child and also continued advocating for other parents. He believes in partnership between school and home and is involved in decision-making at his children's school and district. So I'd like to recognize Doug for figuring out how to break down the doors and be a partner with us at Valhalla and with the Federal Way Public School District.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You want to say anything?
Sure, I'll say something.
All right.
Members of the board president, Ms. Superintendent, ladies and gentlemen, I really feel humbled and undeserving. There's so many active parents and involved parents that do so much for the school district and for the kids in the district. And I'll take a little bit of credit, but also so much credit goes to the teachers and the principal, vice principal, the school board, who are willing to work with the parents and help the parents find ways to help our kids succeed. I couldn't be effective without a effective teachers and educators. So thank you so much.
Any questions? Comments, board members?
I mean, up to you.
Sure.
So I do have one comment. Regrettably, Director Wilson could not be here tonight, but she wants me to send her congratulations to you. And I also want to say that it does take a village, and you can see that village sitting in the back row here to support you tonight. Many amazing things come out of Ahala, and I appreciate all of you. Thank you.
Picture?
Now it's time for public comment, and I have one this evening. Gloria Butts on fairness.
Good afternoon. I attended the last meeting, and I asked the board a question. I did not receive an answer or a reply. So here I am again today to ask you that question. Our children have experienced great racial discrimination within many programs that is funded by the U.S. Department of Education. Disparate treatment from teachers and administrations. So I asked the board, why do you continue to support uncivilized treatment of our children within this district? Thank you.
Thank you. So, what's your name, sir?
My name is Alton McDonald from the Central Justice Network.
So Alton McDonald would like to make comments concerning racial discrimination of a student that was assaulted by a teacher in 2013.
Is this appropriate for comment? I don't think we can.
Right?
Nope.
Right? Yeah, we can't. We're not going to have specifics, correct?
Excuse me? Yes, I'll address the board regards to those issues.
You can't.
You can't have specific issues around something that's.
We have a process for dealing with complaints on here. It's governance process 29.
So no specifics, right?
I will tailor my comment accordingly.
Okay, and I will gavel you if it gets out of line. Okay, just so we're clear. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening to the board. I've been here before, and on one occasion, to address this board as it relates to how Fairway School District deal with black children. And as it relates to how discrimination reigns within the Fairway Public School. You are a school that get public funds. However, we have the black children in the school who are being targeted, retaliated against, and also being discriminated against. This is not my first time coming before this board, but to date, 2015, as this country celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Edmund Pettus Bridge, they call it the Freedom March, We are American. We're brutalized by other Americans because they believe that black people don't have the right to speak or to address issues that impact them and their lives and their family, just because of their skin color. Today I stand before you and I bear witness to the same, that the Fairway School District needs to address the racism that permeates the wall. We talk about marginal changes. No, systemic changes. We addressed the superintendent, yet no action has been taken. We want this board to understand that the only way that any change is going to occur here in this district, that the board must take the bull by the horn. If it's wrong to discriminate against people of the LGBT community, it's also wrong to discriminate against black children in your public school. If it's wrong to discriminate against other ethnic groups, it is wrong to discriminate against black children and the employees in your public school. So therefore, Mr. President, board members, I charge you to look into these issues as related to discrimination, how the black students are being mistreated. Discrimination reign supremely in your public school here in Fairway Way. Or the black employees, how they are treated versus their white counterpart employees who are not treated the same way just because of their skin color. It is illegal. It is wrong. So I implore this board to make sure or to question, ask the question, and get an answer, a correct answer, an honest answer from your superintendent. How are our black students being treated in the public school? From the middle school to the high school, and from elementary to, from kindergarten to elementary, from elementary to middle school, from middle school to high school. How are these black students being treated? How are the employees being treated? Those are the questions I pose to this board. And if the only way that we can resolve this is to take this district into a court of law, as the law would allow, that's what needs to happen. I believe the taxpayer would be upset with this board to know that there's something that you can address, you fail to address, and then it costs them thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars later on. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we will have superintendent comments from Superintendent McLean.
I have a number of things I'd like to talk about this evening. I know last week was a busy week for students. March Madness happens in school districts in more ways than basketball, although certainly basketball was a highlight last week with our Todd Beamer High School girls placing third in the state and our Federal Way High School boys team placing first in the state. Pretty phenomenal outcomes. In addition to that, I know our music conferences, our music festivals and competitions were occurring over this last weekend, at least at middle school, and those start to roll through the rest of the month. And we were co-sponsors of a powwow Friday night in Puyallup. So always plenty of opportunities now for parents, community, staff to be engaged in a number of student activities. I wanted to take a moment to just share with us, if I can find my notes. You might recall that at the beginning of the last school year, of the 13-14 school year, we had a number of significant software implementations. One of those was the student information system. And the goal at the time, in terms of standing that system up, was to make sure that families and students could get registered, people could get schedules, and that attendance could be taken. I mean, that was the major goal in getting that system standing up. And with any software package, of course, there are many more options that you can learn once you get the basics down. And Richard Lasso at Federal Way High School was part of the 25-member implementation team, and he, with the great support of IT, who were obviously reaching out for this. Last week, Federal Way High School jumped in with both feet into the online pre-registration system for high school students. So this is the first time, I believe, well, it's the first time we've used the current SIS to do online registration. And if you think about our high schools, Federal Way High School in particular, with both the construction impacts and getting ready to move into a 32 credit structure, taking on the online pre-registration process is worth shouting out to them. And for doing that work. So students registered through their Student View accounts, and families also have access to view through Parent View the courses that their students selected. The social studies teachers or counselors spent all week going into social studies classrooms to explain to students the 8-period structure and to lead students through the online registration process. And after 5 days of classroom registrations, they had 70% of their students locked in with complete course requests, which is not an insignificant number. I thought when I heard we were piloting this that maybe we were doing it with, this year's sophomores. I didn't realize we were doing it for the whole school. So that certainly makes that registration process and building a master's schedule, they're far ahead of where they were a year ago, and we'll have the opportunity to spend time assessing where students are and what they need to do to stay on track or to catch up for their senior year. And then Richard closes by saying he'd be remiss if he didn't say that Marin Miller and the IT department, Sharon, Diane, Eddie, and Tim in particular, were extremely helpful and supportive in our efforts. We would not have been able to pull this off without their guidance and patience. So it's just an exciting next step in terms of utilizing a tool that we spent a lot of time and energy getting up and running, and being able to take advantage of some of those more robust opportunities. In Marie Verhaar's department, Judy Lemmel, the ELL director, has launched an ELL refugee task force to take a look at the way we are serving students who are immigrating to us, and those conversations, one meeting's taken place so far, and I think people are really very excited about that, and it's helping spur some thinking, not just about serving our refugee population, but how we serve the broader non-English speaking student community. So I'm excited to see their work continue through this spring. The board members may recall when we were at WASDA in Spokane, one of the sessions we went to around student discipline had talked about, or what I try to reframe as consequences for student behavior. One speaker talked about a concept of restorative justice, which in my mind is common sense. So we are sending a team of of middle school principals and some central staff to Oakland Public Schools in a couple of weeks, where they have been using restorative justice for a period of time. While Highline is certainly in our backyard for some startup consultation, it will be great for us to see how restorative justice is working after a significant period of time. So I just wanted to put that on your radar screen, because you will notice at the next board meeting that a couple key people are missing, and that's because they're working on gathering some information and next steps for restorative justice for us. And then this is classified employee weeks. Now, I know there are a whole host of employee recognition weeks, but there are probably two that really encompass the majority of the school district employees. One is Classified Employee Week. The other, of course, is Teacher Appreciation Week, which comes in May. I have a proclamation in honor of classified employees, because I would like to give a shout out to the work that our classified employees do in our school district. This particular proclamation was signed by the Governor, Jay Inslee, and he indicates that whereas classified school employees are involved in nearly every aspect of education, maintaining buildings and grounds, preparing and serving meals, keeping school facilities clean and orderly, assisting in the classroom, performing and conducting research activities, providing information technology and media services, administrative support functions, safe transportation, a secure and healthy environment, and many other specialized services. And whereas these dedicated individuals deserve recognition and thanks for the outstanding work they're doing for this state, their communities, and the students enrolled in Washington public schools and universities. Whereas in Washington State, not here in Federal Way, whereas there are nearly 50,000 classified school employees working with and helping students in Washington's universities and public schools, and whereas classified school employees are instrumental in the state's responsibility to educate all students, and whereas by supporting the learning environment, classified school employees are crucial partners with professors, teachers, parents, administrators, and school boards in our education system. Now therefore, I, Jay Inslee, Governor of the State of Washington, do hereby proclaim March 9th through the 13th as Classified Public School Employee Week. And I urge all people in our state to join me in this special observance. So again, I just wanted to give a shout out to the other half of the team that helps provide opportunities for our students every day. There are one other thing to put on your radar screen, of course, are Smarter Balance assessments, and that massive assessment schedule is headed our way. Ron Mayberry and his team and Dave Davis in assessment have been helping schools take interim tests or practice tests, so we get a chance to work out some of the bugs. I understand we actually had one of our first live tests with a small student population at Todd Beamer today, but the bulk of the testing is scheduled to start on Monday, March 23rd, and ends, about the day before graduation in June. So just be aware that the Smarter Balance assessment testing is a brand new assessment, brand new testing methodology, and we're testing more students than we've ever tested before. So you will see stress in the system in a variety of ways. We'll all be working on our deep breathing exercises. Couple of events that are coming up, if they're not already on your calendar. The Mirror runs a Best of Federal Way contest every year, and people nominate a variety of school district employees for the Best of Federal Way. That recognition starts tomorrow at the Community Center and runs from 5 to 8. We also have the Avid Writing Contest. This is the annual Avid Writing Contest, which is the writing is judged, and we have honorable mentions, first runner-ups, and then an award winner for high school and middle school. That Avid Award dinner, you should have all received your invitations, but it's tomorrow night at Todd Beamer High School starting at 6 o'clock. So we will have the winners at the high school and the middle school level read their pieces, and I think you will be impressed. And then on Saturday, there is a District 30th Town Hall meeting. Okay, and
so it is 10 a.m. at City Hall. It will be all three of your legislators from the 30th District at 10 a.m. for you to come and share. And this would be your opportunity to share your opinions about education and the funding of education that is so desperately needed.
Thank you for that opportunity. And one last thing, which I have no permission to do, so this could be the end. I would just like to give a shout out to President McAnally because he's here celebrating his birthday with us tonight. If I could sing, I would sing.
Thank you. All right, so next, our school board comments. Director Etta, would you like to start us?
Okay. Well, March is going to be really busy, and so I was glad that I was able to take last Monday and go to Olympic View Elementary. They were doing a Dr. Seuss reading, and they've sent me a thank you card here, which I'm very happy to share with everybody. But it was really surprising that the Olympic View room number 8 kindergarten class had readers, and so it just kind of says how important it is in early education to be there for preschool and kindergarten, not missing 10% of the classes like the roadmap data was showing at our conference in Renton. But I really enjoyed reading Horton Hears a Who, and every time my eyes failed me, there was a student out there that could read out the words. So I really enjoyed that time there. And by the way, Horton Hears a Who has some threatening, violent scenes involved in there, or intuited in there. I also got to talk with the teacher coach, and now I understand why all the teachers are so positive about this idea that Federal Way has moved forward on with providing coaches at various schools. because all the indications are in various things that I read that teachers need time to collaborate. So it's great that the schools have these facilitated sessions with these teaching coaches, very highly qualified people, very articulate. So I enjoyed that time there. I do intend to go to the AVID session tomorrow, and I hope that I can also attend some more with the superintendent search meetings just piling up this month. Also wanted to attend on the 28th of March at Decatur High School this big band showcase and see what our art programs are like. So thank you.
Thank you. Director Peterson?
Yeah, just real quick, had the opportunity to, the other day was over at Mrs. Stoiko's class and had Mayor Jim Farrell there, and her class had basically taken a class project that they do every year with a city, and usually it's like a shoebox size. Well, they decided to make it refrigerator box size with streets and everything, and it was just really cool just to see that and have the mayor came out. I know that made a lot of difference for the kids, and just see the time and effort that they spent over there in that class. So that was fun. And also had the privilege of going to the Tacoma Dome on Friday night to see our Eagles play in the semifinals, and just watching our guys just play fantastic, and also see our Lady Titans also as well play that evening, and just put their heart and soul out on that court. And it was a great watching both of our teams. And want to congratulate our Eagles for their championship in the state, as Superintendent McLean talked about, and also our Lady Titans, who are third place. And it was just a lot of fun just seeing competition at that level, and just seeing what great, amazing student athletes we have, not only on the court but also off the court as well. So thank you.
So I too want to congratulate both of our teams. It was pretty amazing, and it was pretty heartbreaking Friday night from a half-court shot to lose by 2 points, right? So we thought the Beamer girls had it, and that half-court shot went in, and I think we were all pretty shocked. But still a phenomenal showing and coming in third place in the state, and the Eagles ending up taking the championship, which is great. As you've heard, the superintendent search has begun. Actually, the process of interviewing has begun. So what we found out last Saturday in a 6-hour session was there were actually 266 outreaches to 41 states. We ended up with 41 completed applications. And of those 41 applications, we had 11 quarterfinalists, 6 of them from Washington, 1 from Michigan, 1 from Minnesota, 1 from Wisconsin, 1 from Georgia, and 1 from Texas. Going through that deliberation as a board, we came to 4 semifinalists that we will interview next Tuesday, the 17th. There are 3 of them from Washington and 1 from Texas. Once those interviews are done on the 19th, right here at 5 p.m., we will deliberate over those 4 semifinalists to come up with our 2 finalists. That is an open meeting. We'll go into executive session to discuss and then come out and deliberate and announce our 2, hopefully it could be 2 or 3, but our finalists that we will move forward with. We're going to discuss later a schedule for participation for stakeholders in all of the community that will happen on the 25th and 26th. So I want to make sure that you watch your mailbox. All of you will be receiving a postcard with times and dates of those when they're coming out. It will also soon be posted on the website as well. You'll also see articles in the Mirror concerning it, or advertisements in the Mirror. So any of you that want to participate, this will be your opportunity to participate in the finalists. You'll need to plan a 2-hour session in your stakeholder piece. There'll be open forums and then different designations, the same we had in December of the 11 different stakeholders. It will be a 2-hour process because you will have interaction with one of the finalists for an hour, the other finalist for an hour, and then you will fill out an exit slip to give your feedback to the board on what you believe is the best direction for Federal Way. So please make sure that you're all aware. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us, but we do want everybody's involvement in the process to make sure in this paramount decision that we make to move our district forward that we're all on board together. I'm just actually, because Director Wilson's not here, I'm just going to move into the legislative report in my comments as well. So Superintendent McLean and Director Wilson and I spent 2 days down in Olympia caucusing and then going before our legislators. We actually saw and met with 9 legislators, 8 of them out of the districts that are impact our schools, and met face-to-face with them to share our opinions and things about what was there. Unfortunately, Deputy Superintendent was sick, so we missed him, but totally understood. We've all seemed to have gotten this creeping crud that seems to linger forever. So, but we did go and meet with them, and actually we even got to meet with Mr. Chop and talk about the disparate differences that we experience in Federal Way because of the funding formula. So we did share that, and I think that's, if we can get any movement, that may be our opportunity to do that. But I want to thank Superintendent McLean for going and Director Wilson. It was definitely a lively piece, and as I shared last meeting, for us, from a legislative perspective, we've not had a lot of involvement the past couple of years, but May is our next piece, and I definitely, once we get through this superintendent search, that we'll begin to have discussions around that from a legislative perspective and how it impacts us as a school district, and anything we should feed forward that goes to the Ledge Committee to go on to the Ledge Conference that'll happen in September. So that is all I have at this time. So next, Jerry Carlson, Director of Business Services.
I'm sorry. We did have one action item related to the legislative conference where we had had a conversation about the board sending a letter in support of the capital operating budget,
exactly right.
specifically in regards to the Puget Sound Skills Center building that is part of Governor Inslee's budget.
Thank you for catching that.
So, Mr. President, I move to approve the board's support of the Puget Sound Skills Center state capital budget request.
I second.
So I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I don't know if somebody wants to kind of touch on what that entails.
Sure. This particular facility is a new facility to support the current nursing and dental assistant programs at Puget Sound Skills Center and to allow the addition of a biomedical program. Puget Sound Skills Center is the oldest skills center in the state, and like any building that is of a significant age, it is difficult to retrofit them to meet the technological needs of some of these programs. Additionally, the demand for these programs is high, and with this new building, which this is not the first time they've been seeking funding for it, they'll be able to serve up to 300 students. And so it's a dynamic program. The one partnership that I can speak to specifically with Green River Community College actually allows our students who attend the Certified Nursing Assistance Program to complete their program with a CNA and along with their high school diploma. And of course, Director Nancy Hawkins is in the audience, so she may have additional detail if more detail is desired.
The only thing I would add is that the building is projected to also serve programs that they have planned for the future. So the two programs that Superintendent McLean mentioned, also.
The biomedical.
Yeah, and it was Senator Kaiser that brought this to our attention, and so that's why we all felt it was a need to bring it to the board to definitely support this in the capital expenditure. So the motion is second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Sorry about that, Jerry. You're up.
Of the board, Superintendent McLean. Tonight, one of the resolutions for your consideration and approval is resolution number 2015-02. We talked a little bit about this resolution at the last board meeting as well. This is sort of the second step in that process. This is an amending resolution to a resolution number 2007-03 that was approved by the board back in February of 2007 that authorized a special election to be held in May of 2007 for a $149 million bond authorization. You'll recall from our discussions at the last board meeting that in order to use the remaining funds from this bond authorization for capital projects that are outside of the scope of that original authorization, that we are required by RCW 28A.530.020 to hold a public hearing and then to also adopt an amending resolution. So we held the public hearing at the last board meeting of February 24th. And you've got before you the amending resolution tonight for action. The amending resolution basically puts language into that original resolution that expands the list of capital improvements to include the support for the rebuilding of Federal Way High School. Any questions, comments?
Any questions on resolution 2015-02 at this point? If no questions, do I hear a motion?
I move to adopt Resolution 2015-02, amending Resolution 2007-03 to add additional capital purposes for which bond proceeds may be spent by the district.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Any discussion?
I think it's a great idea.
Great. Hearing no other discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, so that brings us to the next two resolutions that I'm going to be asking for your approval on tonight as well. These resolutions are in support of the work that we are currently doing to refund some of our outstanding bonds and to also issue the final series of bonds in that $149 million voter authorization. In the audience tonight, I have with me Mr. John Gores, who is our financial advisor. John works with D.A. Davidson, and I just want to take a minute and personally thank him for supporting us as we've gone through this process, and also his patience with me as I learn some of these intricacies of bonds and markets. He is an expert and certainly here to answer any questions as well as we go through this. What am I, where's my, where do I, oh, excuse me.
Look at the middle, there
I
you
got
go.
it. Okay, sorry. So typically when going through the process of selling bonds or refunds, there are some goals or things to consider. One of those goals would be to actively manage our total tax bill. In other words, looking at all of the voter authorizations between our EP&O levy, between our capital projects technology levy, the capital projects levy for the Federal Way High School, as well as all of our previously issued debt and any new issued debt. One piece of good news here is that within the next 10 years, 70% of our current outstanding debt will be retired. So as we look to some of the future needs of our construction here in the district, that's some exciting news there. In addition, another goal is to minimize taxpayer interest costs, and we can do this by participating in the school bond guarantee program and also just maintaining our strong credit ratings that we've got. So the first resolution in the bond sale process is Board Resolution 2015-03. This is a resolution that authorizes a participation in the Washington State School District Credit Enhancement Program, also known as the School Bond Guarantee Program. What this does is it provides credit enhancement basically for the school district by the state pledging its full faith and credit to cover those bonds payments in the unlikely event that the district would default on those. Typically, this reduces our borrowing costs through interest cost savings. The next resolution is Resolution 2015-04. This is quite lengthy and it does quite a bit of things. I should point out that all of the resolutions that were prepared that you have before you tonight, they've been prepared by District's Bond Counsel, Cynthia Weed, who works with K&L Gates. They've also been reviewed by our financial advisor as well as district staff. So what this resolution does is it authorizes the sale of the $10 million of new bonds. This is what we had just talked about in that 2007 bond authorization. There still remains $10 million worth of bonds that have not been issued yet. This would be the fifth and final series of that bond authorization. It is new money and those proceeds would go into the Capital Projects Fund for the purposes of helping to support the rebuilding of Federal Way High School. Additionally, the resolution authorizes the refunding of a bond series in our 2007 and 2008. A refunding is really a procedure where we refinance the old bonds by issuing new bonds. It doesn't create new money, it simply retires that old debt. Why do we want to do a refunding? We want to take advantage of market rates and conditions and reduce the interest costs and pass those savings on to our taxpayers. Currently, in that 2007 and 2008 bond series, the combined interest savings based on current market conditions would be a savings of about $4 million to our taxpayers in terms of interest cost. Nice chunk of money. Furthermore, the resolution declares the bonds to be sold competitively. The bonds would be advertised for sale, and they would be awarded to the bidder that offers the lowest interest cost. The resolution also delegates authority within some defined limits to both the superintendent and/or myself to accept or reject these bids. And some of those defined limits that we're talking about that are stated within that resolution, one would be a minimum savings target that we would want to achieve of 5% of the refunding bonds. That $4 million that we're currently looking at right now based on current market conditions, that would be a savings target roughly of 6.5%. Additionally, the resolution limits the true interest cost on the sale of the new bonds to 4.5%. The delegation authority will expire on November 30th of 2015, and currently we're scheduled to go to the market on April 9th of 2015. So the board action required tonight is both the resolution number 201503, which is authorizes the participation in the bond state school bond guarantee program, and also resolution 2015-04 that provides for the issuance and sale of the bonds and the refunding bonds.
So any comments, questions? All right, thank you, Jerry. So do I hear a motion for resolution 2015-03?
I move that the Board of Education adopt Resolution 2015-03, authorizing the superintendent and/or executive director of business services of the district to submit a request for eligibility for the Washington State School District Credit Enhancement Program.
I'll second.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we need a motion for resolution 2015-04 and take a deep breath.
Want me to do it? Want me to do the big paragraph? Okay, I got this one. Everybody find a good thing to read right now. Here we go. I move that the Board of Education adopt Resolution 2015-04, providing for the issuance and sale of unlimited tax general obligation and refunding bonds of the district in one or more series in the aggregate principal amount of not exceeding $80 million for the purpose of providing funds required to construct, equip, modernize, and make our capital improvements to the facilities of the school district as authorized by resolution of the Board of Directors and approved by the qualified electors of the district at a special election held therein on May 15th, 2007, and for the purpose of refunding certain outstanding obligation bonds of the district, appointing an escrow agent, authorizing the execution of an escrow agreement related to such refunding, authorizing a preliminary official statement, approving a competitive sale of such bonds, and delegating to the superintendent and/or executive director, business services of the district and the authority to accept a bid and approve the interest rates, maturity dates, and principal maturities for the bonds under the terms and conditions set forth herein.
Here a second?
I second.
Yeah.
Motion and second. Way to go, Director Peterson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you, John.
All right.
I just want to give a shout out to Jerry for being willing to take this on during a year where the business office continues to be short-staffed. While John makes this as easy as possible, it does take time and energy to go through all of the mechanics of preparing for a bond sale. So I just want to say thank you for saving our taxpayers maybe $4 million. That's a significant contribution.
Yes. Thank you, Jerry. All right, next, item 13 is Superintendent McLean, Resolution 2015-05 on South King Fire and Rescue levy support.
Thank you for this opportunity. Under the laws of the state of Washington, school boards have the legal authority to take a position on ballot issues. And South King County Fire has a ballot issue coming in front of the voters on April 28th. And this is actually a capital ballot issue rather than an ongoing levy. So the fire departments have the same kinds of structures we do. You either have a levy that expires after a certain amount of time, or you run a capital bond for certain kinds of acquisitions. And Assistant Chief Ed Plumley is here with us in the event that the board has any specific questions about the ballot proposition that the South King County Fire and Rescue Board has adopted. But the resolution in front of you this evening just indicates the board's support of the South King County Fire and Rescue's Proposition 1 tax levy for general obligation bonds, which includes funding for fire station improvements and firefighter safety equipment and upgrades. It was the last time the board took a position on a particular ballot proposition was also for South King County Fire in 2012. So I can, Director Peterson will have to recuse himself from this vote.
I will be recusing myself
but,
from this.
but may have some information he wants to share.
All right, so do I hear a motion for Resolution 2015-05?
I move to adopt Resolution 2015-05, supporting South King Fire and Rescue Proposition 1 tax levy for general obligation bonds, which includes funding for fire station improvements and firefighter safety equipment upgrades.
And I second that motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
And I would just like to point out that while we have 5 board members that are typically seated, we have a majority of the board here this evening. I did double check with legal counsel that the votes taken this evening are legal and binding as long as we have a majority of the board members present, just in case anyone wondered.
All kinds of twists and turns tonight, huh? All right, Superintendent McLean, you're up again. Early learning space expansion letter of intent.
I am very excited this evening to introduce to you Krista Fryer, who has been doing a lot of the work in conjunction with a number of other staff to determine the viability of pursuing commercial lease opportunities. So while we're not quite ready to have you approve a letter of intent, when you look at your motion page, what we thought would be appropriate for us to do tonight was to talk about commercial lease opportunities for early learning spaces and obtain your an indication of your support as we try to move forward with this concept. So with that, I'll turn it over to Krista, who has very graciously given up her evening this evening. Thank you.
Hello. So we, as Sally was saying, are looking at leasing some property. So to give you some background, we have 3 types of programs for early learning in our school district. ECAP, which is the state-funded program, has 204 spots. 20 of those spots are 6-hour program, and the rest are half day. Head Start has 152 spots. And then our developmental preschool is made up of special education students and tuition peers, and that can fluctuate. So what we're really talking about is ECAP at this time. Our preschools are located throughout our district, mostly at elementary schools, but some are located at high schools and the Norman Center. As you know, our elementary schools are continuing to grow, so we are just crunched for space everywhere. The House passed a bill, House Bill 2731. This was passed in 2010. It states that every child who is income eligible for ECAP by 2018 will have the opportunity to attend. Therefore, they need to open up spaces for those children all across the state. So between now and 2018, DEL, which is the Department of Early Learning, will be offering additional spots. The way they offer those spots are based on a saturation study. And in the packet, the very back page and the bottom shows Federal Way's predicted numbers. These are based on first and second grade children based on free and reduced lunch is how they come up with these numbers. So currently with ECAP and Head Start, we have 356 spaces. The state is estimating that within the Federal Way School District, there are 1,397 children who are eligible for the free preschool. So we're meeting 25% of that need, which in comparable districts, Kent, Highline have almost the same size. Right now, their spot allotment is in the 30s and 40%. King County as a whole is about 40%. So Federal Way could take a lot of additional spots, saying there are over 1,000 children that they believe are unserved in our area. But now the issue is, where are we going to place those children? So Uptown Square, which has purchased the old transportation department off of 320th by the Safeway, is building a mixed-use, affordable residential community. They have 2 buildings that have retail space, and they have been talking to us. Building B, if we looked at all of Building B, has 6,600 square feet. When we talked to them about outdoor play space and state regulations, they talked about adding fencing and making a play space for us. If we were to rent this space, we could easily accommodate like up to 5 classrooms and office space. This picture is in your pamphlet. It did not, it came out dark, but this is Building B that we are considering. Floor plan for Building B, and they were going to have kind of a pedestrian zone, but they were saying that where this dark line is, that they could fence that in and hedge it and make kind of a private outdoor enclosure. They will allow some tenant improvement dollars to build the building to our specs. Rent is currently asking $19 a square foot for the year. The tenant would have to pay utilities, and we could move in by September 2016. So right now, we definitely want to take as many spots as ECAP is willing to give us. We're brainstorming different ways that we can use space that we have currently to fill the needs for our students. If we were able to lease this space, then within 2 years we would have another place for either 100 full-day preschool spots or 200 half-day spots, or a combination thereof. And do you have any questions?
Any questions, comments? Who? Claire. Oh, yeah, Claire's
I know.
bouncing out of her seat. Yeah, exactly. All right, so there's a motion before us. Do I hear?
Just with, I guess with the long-term funding, is that, what is the kind of the funding mechanism long-term for this?
So, being conservative, obviously I'm not willing to launch into a lease when we don't know whether or not we're going to secure more ECAP funding slots, although Krista addressed the fact that we have a very high need and a very low ability to serve students at this point in time. So I'm not really concerned about being able to fulfill that need. Or to obtain that additional funding from the state. I believe we will qualify. Even if for some reason we don't qualify, there's huge pressures in our elementary schools as the McCleary funding rolls in to reduce class size in K-3 classrooms to 17. And so while my hope would be this would be an expansion program, it could end up being a replacement program in the unlikely event we weren't funded for new slots, because we're gonna end up looking for ways to reduce class sizes in K-3 and still serve our preschool students. We've not begun to negotiate any of the details of the lease, so certainly the terms that have been presented so far are just the terms on their marketing sheet. And we have the ability to ensure any variety of safeguards and just also the term of the lease as we move forward. So we have not we have leased some space in the past for different programs. The Internet Academy was in a leased facility for more than 10 years, I believe. And so we have a practice of doing that when there are some physical needs that we're not prepared to construct a facility for. Certainly as we look at phase 2 of the next bond proposal, having a conversation about what our early learning needs might make a whole lot of sense. Is that? Okay.
And I was going to add to that, these slots do come with funding, so that could help offset some of that cost. And the state has been looking into the fact that if they're giving additional spots, they need to give people capital improvement gains to start with, because most places don't have either don't have a location, or again, you don't have furniture. I mean, you've got to totally equip that room from the ground up. So there is discussion about that, but again, the state hasn't given that information out yet as to what will come with that.
Any other questions?
Go ahead. Let me ask a question. I'll get mine.
So just to clarify, this is just to seek what the lease opportunities are, or are we approving the Office of Superintendent to actually secure a lease?
It's to pursue,
defer
right?
that to Sally.
It is to pursue a lease. Go ahead.
Yeah, the owners of the property are looking for a specific letter of intent, which is not untypical in real estate transactions. We're not at the place tonight to be able to say I have a letter of intent ready for your approval, but we wanted to take the first step to inform the board that we are pursuing a commercial space lease, and then I would hope within, perhaps by as early as the next board meeting, we would have a letter of intent with the actual specifics that would be outlined in the lease. At that point in time, I would be seeking permission to negotiate the lease within the terms of the letter of intent.
Got it. And just to help me wrap my head around, we're choosing possibly this location because of, is it because of location? Is it because of the property owner approached us? Is it because it's new and might be able to accommodate? Was it just an opportunity that came up, or has there been more kind of strategic thinking that?
I think there's all of the above. So it is new, so we could kind of design the rooms as we felt like they would fit the needs for our children. Sometimes when they go into an elementary school, they still have to lower sinks, get lower restrooms, things like that. So if we could build it from the ground up, that was one advantage. It is off 320th, which is off a bus line, which is easily accessible, easy to find for families. It is an affordable housing development, which means it has to meet 60% of the mean income, and there is some Section 8 housing, and we feel like that there would be families who lived in that area who could participate in the preschool.
So is the hope then that students are walking to school, or are we busing them from the highways and byways into this location? Is it central? Is that the bus line at Central?
Generally, ECAP and Head Start families provide their own transportation to the classroom. So sometimes they walk, some people drive, and we were just looking at that with the bus line. This might be helpful for some families.
Okay.
Thank you, Superintendent McLean and the board.
Any other questions? Do I hear a motion?
I move to authorize the superintendent or designee to pursue commercial lease opportunities for early learning facilities.
Hear a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have Cindy Wendland, Director of Facilities, presenting EL9 on the Facilities Program.
Thank you. Good evening and happy birthday, Mr. President. I've always wanted to say that. So tonight I'm here to present EL9, our facilities program. I think it's gonna, yeah. So the superintendent may not fail to maintain a long-range plan for managing and developing facilities. In 2005, the district developed a 4-phase building replacement plan. That was Lakeland, Panther Lake, Sunnycrest, Valhalla, Lakota, Federal High School, Central Kitchen, ESC, and the Support Service Center are also maintenance and transportation. Phase 1 of this plan will conclude with the completion of the new Federal High School. We are in the process of completing an updated study and survey. This new study and survey will provide updated information to help confirm or reprioritize phases 2 through 4 of the district's long-range plan. So you understand a study and survey, it's 12 chapters. The first one is a building assessment, and we have contracted with Bassetti Architects to help us complete this study and survey. To continue on, we have a boiler replacement schedule that has been created, and for your information, that we have 13 boilers that have been in service for over 50 years. We have 3 that have been in service for over 40 years, 1 for over 30, 21 for over 20 years. We currently have 2 boilers having been evaluated as having less than 1 year life expectancy, which would be Star Lake and Mirror Lake Elementary Schools. The estimated replacement cost for both of those as a total is $500,000. And for some clarification, the older boilers' life expectancy was about 30 to 40 years. Our newer boilers are about 20 years. And the cost, although it's not just for boilers, it's for design, remodel. We're taking a big, huge boiler. We're putting 2 smaller boilers in it, so which is, you know, expensive. And we have done this to Mark Twain, and that cost, the cost there was just a little under $300,000. We've also completed a roof replacement schedule. We currently have 13 roofs over 25 years old. What we expect a life of a roof is 20 years, and the estimated replacement cost is over $8 million. Number 2, the superintendent may not fail to involve key stakeholders in the long-range plan. So upon completion of the study and survey, we are going to be inviting our key stakeholders, our parents, our students, our community members, our staff, to join us to review the study and survey, along with what we pull out our work order system, what we've done at each school, just to confirm or update the remaining 3 phases of our 2005 replacement plan. Number 3, the superintendent may not cause or allow actions that violate or materially deviate from voter-approved building and renovation projects, state regulations, procurement code, or building codes. So this is a list of the completed projects from the 2007 state match dollars. Sorry it's so small, but we did quite a few things at an approximately $20 million value. The one thing we have left to complete is the Illahee sewer connection. We are expecting to begin that in June of 2015 with completion August 2015 and an expected hookup at the completion of the Retreat Meadows housing development, which we are thinking about 2 years. Number 4, the superintendent may not fail to develop a plan for public use of buildings and grounds. District Policy and Procedure 4260 and 4260 address facility use guidelines. I'd also like just to mention one more thing, that we have also have 3 playground updates to do this year at Adelaide, Brigadoon, Enterprise, Lake Grove, and Mirror Lake. They're not replacements, but they will be updating of those playground facilities at those schools. And that concludes my 2015 EL9 presentation. Any questions?
We talked about at the work study just some of the great work and the planning and being strategic about it. And I remember when we approved last year that one of the boilers, and that's one of those roofs. Boilers are not exciting, educational, want to touch it, see it, check it out kind of stuff, but it's necessity to what we're doing and to be able to facilitate it. And you got to have roofs that aren't leaking so we can protect our assets. And that's what this is about. It's about protecting, and we don't have all new buildings in our district. And so being mindful of this and not continuing to push it off, but having a plan. I just commend you and your team for the work you're doing. And it's exciting just to see, that slide you had with the state match dollars and some of the stuff we've been doing. And, I know we just need to continue to do that, as our buildings continue to age. And, this is part of the accountability, making sure that we're taking care of what taxpayers have invested in our district. And I think we're doing a great job. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, yes.
So just wondered if we have what a time frame looks like before we see the 2 through 4 reprioritization. Do you have a timeline to when we think we'll do that, or
we are
not yet?
hoping to have the study and survey completed by June.
Okay.
Since there are 12 chapters, I do believe we have chapter 1 done, and we have 3 and 6 almost done.
Great. And I want to reiterate what Director Peterson said. Thank you for all your work.
You're welcome.
Appreciate where you're going.
We have great staff at our maintenance department, so thank you.
Thank you. Next. EL10 Asset Protection, Jerry Carlson again.
Thank you. And I don't have a presentation tonight. You guys have the EL10 report in your packet, and I also provided copies for the audience as well. So EL10 Asset Protection, the main emphasis of this policy really relates to the district's ability to protect the physical, financial, and proprietary property of the district. The actual EL10 statement reads as follows, that the superintendent shall not allow assets to be unprotected, inadequately maintained, inappropriately used, or unnecessarily risked. As I mentioned, you guys have copies. I'd like to just take a minute and go through a few of the compliance areas. I think the evidence in the monitoring report includes information that would support that we're in compliance of this EL. The number 1 states that the superintendent may not fail to obtain insurance coverage against theft, casualty, and liability losses in accordance with risk management pool directions. So the district does participate in the Washington State Risk Management Pool, and through that it does purchase a variety of those coverages, including property, liability, automotive, equipment breakdown, employment practices liability, as well as wrongful act liability. Number 3 talks about that the superintendent may not fail to ensure a program of preventative maintenance is in place for district facilities and equipment. Cindy actually just talked about a lot of the work that has been going on there. Just to reiterate, the district's preventative maintenance tasks are performed throughout the year to satisfy both legal requirements, to maintain the public's investment in our properties and equipment, and also to ensure, as she mentioned, that the systems are operating at their highest and most efficient capacity. Number 6, like I say, I'm kind of skipping around, says that the superintendent may not approve any purchase in violation of the district's procurement regulations. District purchases follow policies designed to facilitate efficient, cost-effective, and competitive selection of vendors. Number 7, the superintendent may not fail to implement procedures to protect information, records, and files from loss or damage. The district practices industry standards in reference to network, computer, and record security with an infrastructure in place that provides for backup, disaster recovery, and protections of our core systems and electronic data. Number 8, the superintendent may not receive, process, and disperse funds under controls which are insufficient under generally accepted accounting principles for governments. In the last audit report that we had from the State Auditor's Office for our fiscal year 2012-13, those results were completed. There were no findings found, and as part of our accountability report, the auditors further stated that the district complied with state laws and regulations and its own policies and procedures. They further noted that internal controls were adequate to safeguard the public's assets in the areas that they did examine. And then number 10 reads that the superintendent may not endanger the district's public image or credibility, thereby jeopardizing the district's ability to accomplish its mission. District programs and operations are constantly monitored for effectiveness and efficiencies. Sound resource management and high-quality, rigorous education programs that we offer helps to support the positive reputation and supports the district in meeting those outcomes. Are there any questions on EL10, asset protection?
Just because you touched on it, I didn't know if you or if Director Mayberry wanted to just talk about, just obviously we're moving more from, we have paper and electronic age. What kinds of safeguards do we have? Is it just how we do security stuff over there, or do we have some off-site stuff for our electronic? What kinds of, just, I know parents ask me, sometimes like going like, how do they keep things under lock and key? And obviously that's the challenge of this day and age of, different, hackers and all that kind of stuff out there. But what kinds of stuff are we doing just to kind of protect our data?
I think that would be a good topic to bring back to you, but we do have backups. Our Todd Beamer site is a system disaster backup for our whole system. We have contracts with off-site backups. We use firewalls and all the traditional things that some of that that's important in this process, but we'd love to bring a more detailed plan if that's desired.
Oh, perfect. No, I know we're doing some. I didn't know if there were certain things to highlight, but thank you.
I just wanted to point out on number 4, Federal Way is significantly lower in terms of its utility costs. Mm-hmm. Somebody should be getting an award for that. The only question I have is if you could clarify what the Washington Schools Risk Management Pool is, because I believe it also covers lawsuits and such, not just facility risks.
We belong to the pool. We have an interlocal agreement. I think we are one of about 86 school districts that belong to that pool. It's a self-insurance pool that basically they're providing coverage for all of the member districts with regards to those insurance, property, liability, employment practices. Oftentimes we'll reach out to the pool. They provide training, to help mitigate risk, such as on, playground, safety training, those sorts of things.
So you're correct, Director Etto. The Washington Schools Risk Management Pool is our liability insurance. So in the event of litigation, they work with us to assign attorneys to defend the school district.
Okay, thank you.
And then I had just one other comment. So the subcommittee of Carol Gregory and Danny Peterson that looked at executive limitations did ask us to bring back some recommendations related to EL 9 and 10. And so when we bring these back for approval next week, at the next board meeting, we will bring the proposed languages back to you. So for changes. So basically, we're talking about a language swap where there are a couple of, there's one item in EL 9 that talks about facility rentals, which probably really belongs under EL 10 for asset protection, maybe, I don't know, we can debate that. And then in EL 10, there's a couple of things that make more sense to move into the facilities program, and that would be EL 3 and 4 that talk about the asset preservation program, which came into being after we created this EL, and then the information about the energy. So those are just a couple of proposals then with the corresponding wording changes for the EL itself that we would be bringing back to you.
Thank you for doing that. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our final subject tonight out of your packet is the proposed schedule for March 25th and 26th for us to walk through. A couple areas we need to cover will be the meal that we will have. And so discussion around it is usually a dinner, but based on this schedule, those dinners would be pretty late. So I did talk, Claire actually responded, Director Wilson responded by email that she can accommodate any of them. I talked to Director Gregory this afternoon. Breakfast would work best for her to add that in for our informal meetings. And when we first typed this up, I had forgot about Director Peterson's request to do the final interviews on the 27th. Director Wilson and Director Gregory can both do those the morning of the 27th from an 8 to 10 time frame. So does the 8 to 10 on the 27th work for you, Director Peterson?
I should be able to. It'll be tight being by 8, but if we can do it later on in the morning, that'd be great. If it's 10 o'clock is the deadline, then 8 to 10 is what we'll need to do. But yeah, then the 27th will work much better than the other days.
Does the 27th work for you to do final interviews instead of doing it the night of the 26th?
Either day is good with me.
Okay, and breakfast, I know that Director Peterson cannot, but that's still something we'll probably do. Does breakfast work from you for 8 to 9 on the 25th and 26th?
It works for me.
All right, so the updates to this would be breakfast with candidate 1 on the 25th at 8 a.m., candidate 2 on the 26th at 8 a.m. We will not have interviews the evening of the 26th. We'll do those interviews at 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. on the 27th. I will check and see. It's really Director Gregory, I think, is the biggest problem. Yeah. So if she can go till 10:30, we'll start at 8:30 for those last 2 interviews. We do need this approval, so do I hear a motion to approve this schedule as amended?
I move to approve the superintendent search schedule as amended.
I second.
I have a motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. And we are adjourned. Thank you.